They're also getting a lesson in local politics.
Hi, I'm Heather McCarnan and I'm 12 years old. We're really hoping to achieve that they change their minds and maybe they might not close the school because it's great there. It's got everything that a kid could want.
I'm Lucy Farrington and I'm 12 years old. I think that we're actually putting a really good stand against the council because they should know how we feel about our school because it's such a big part in our life. Just to get a good education and such a nice school.
I'm William and I'm 12 years old. I think it's absolutely horrible that the council are trying to close our school. I mean, this is the best school if you want to go into art and drama.
I'm Maureen McMillan. I'm a learning manager for years 10 and 11 up at school and I teach sport. Our children have been put through a terrible process at a very vulnerable age in their lives, and I wonder if anybody has taken a real concern about how they feel, how often they've been asked and what trauma it is to themselves. So they support the school and their families very well indeed, and they are more than happy to be here to put forward their point of view in the fact that they are sitting on the pavement having their protests instead of in the building that we want to save for their school.
But despite this and the other protests, all recommendations were pushed through. Those a step closer to closing are the Wakeman School, Barrow,
Wakeman head teacher Karen Moore says they're not giving up.
Governors are determined to secure the future of the school, and we feel we can't sit around waiting for the LA to decide, and we don't feel we should have to keep on justifying our existence. We do an excellent job. We're a good school with outstanding features. Our pupils do very well. Our contribution to the arts is second to none, and we want to take action ourselves and take the matters into our own hands.
Aggie Caesar Homden is with me in the studio this morning. She's the counsellor with the responsibility for education. Aggie, good morning. This is, it says formal consultation over the next 6 weeks. I mean, it's a done deal now, isn't it? Especially for Stuyvesant, schools like Stuyvesant. Your mind's made up, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely not. Cabinet can at any stage stop the process. What we're doing now is we're going through a 6-week statutory consultation, which is the representations on the proposals. So people can say whether they're in favour of the proposals or whether they're against them. But at any stage, if schools can come forward with a viable alternative solution that officers feel will be sustainable in the long term, then they are able to put those forward to the July Cabinet meeting.
But if you've got a school like
doing is now having a statutory consultation on the proposals that were approved by Cabinet yesterday.
You've said throughout there's been an emphasis on listening to people, and quite a few people there yesterday, like some from Barrow School, didn't feel that you'd listened at all.
We have listened. I went to every single one of those meetings, every school, with all of the parents, with the governors, with the staff, and we have listened. And if we heard something, if we had something there that actually would have changed those proposals that came forward, then we would have listened. You know, we would have actually taken that into consideration. However, with some of the schools, they didn't come forward with anything else. But, you know, so we had no alternative other than to accept the proposals by the director.
What about the argument for the Wakeman, for instance? It is the only town centre school in Shrewsbury.
That is right, but we have too many schools in secondary schools in Shrewsbury, and there are other schools within Shrewsbury that are performing as well, and they did not come forward with an alternative proposal.
What happens to the next stage then in consultation here? Can the Cabinet perhaps be persuaded to keep some of the schools open?
Well, what will happen now is that we'll have this consultation. As I said, people can come forward and they can say whether they approve them or whether they're against them. If the schools come forward with viable alternative solutions that will be sustainable in the long term, then Cabinet can choose, to go ahead with that, or they have the power to stop it at any time.
So it isn't a done deal yet?
Absolutely not, no, definitely not. And I would hope that schools and their communities would really understand by now that we are listening. 4 of the proposals we changed because we were listening.
Good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Speaking of opposition councillors, their appeals were turned down at a full meeting of Shropshire Council this morning. Councillor Aggie Caesar Homden, who's responsible for education, said the council was still listening and would consider viable alternatives before a final decision was made on July the 20th. But Ruth Exelby, a parent governor at the Wakeman, wasn't convinced.
It's an utter nonsense. We have, I've already stated that we put forward in our report an alternative proposal. I outlined it again today in the meeting, and again it was ignored. She has a lovely phrase that we are listening, but there's a difference between listening and hearing.
It was all set up right at the beginning. This is all planned, highly organised, and the fact that we're not getting our democratic rights for our people over is fixed. This council may have changed. I'm not aware of this. Under a county council, it may have been different. Under this unitary, it looks as if all rights have been withdrawn.
It's an example of a completely undemocratic process. We have been following the guidelines, we've been following the rules, but the report that was put in front of Cabinet did not have the correct facts and figures in front of it. It was a work of fiction, and unfortunately that's what the Cabinet's looked at and read. They did not look behind it and look at the real facts and the information behind this decision, and as was said earlier, the decision was already made, and that report was just put in place to confirm that they wanted to close the Wakeman school.
Disbelief, really. As said before, they have given some schools extra time. They refused to give us the extra time. It was clearly made known by some of the councillors today that they have in fact got a 2-month period they can give us for extra consultation, extra work to be put in. They have just simply denied that with no reasoning behind it.
Now, the council repeatedly said throughout that meeting, the portfolio holder, Aggie Caesar-Homden, she made it very clear that you've got 6 weeks now to come forward with alternative proposals. She said repeatedly, the council is listening, we are listening. What do you make of that?
It's an utter nonsense. We have, I've already stated that we put forward in our report an alternative proposal. I outlined it again today in the meeting, and again it was ignored. She has a lovely phrase that we are listening, but there's a difference between listening and hearing.
Do you still have hope that you can keep your schools open?
Absolutely. Our fight is stronger than ever. As we reiterated to Council today, they've got a couple of very fundamental things wrong. The school they want our kids to go to does not have capacity to take us. The preschool does not have capacity to take us. So where are our kids going to go? The fight goes on stronger than ever.
Absolutely, even more so now, and every alternative option would be considered. I think the council have underestimated the reaction that the communities of Shropshire have come up with to these proposals. The young people, the students and youth of Shropshire are angry about decisions being taken away from them and parental choice, and not least of which the impact on the staff in the schools has not even been alluded to by the council.
I think it exposes the one-party system that we have here in Shropshire, which is going to probably end up being destroyed by this tobacco.
We're joined by Aggie Caesar-Homden, the councillor responsible for education. Aggie, you could have given the schools extra time to come up with a concrete proposal. Why didn't you?
Well, as you would have heard in the report, what happened today was that we had a debate at council, which was because we had the petitions. Now, what we said was that if schools could come forward within the consultation.
What happened to the motion put forward by Councillor Alan Mosley?
Which motion?
Today. Why wasn't he listened to today? What changed?
As far as I'm aware, Councillor Mosley did not put a motion forward. If you're asking me about procedure, then I'm not best placed to answer that question. The monitoring officer of Shropshire Council would be best placed to answer any procedural questions.
Okay, but you rejected the motion about the Wakeman without listening to the other ideas, didn't you?
You mean when Alan, as did other people, asked the question about why there wasn't more time?
Yes.
As I've already explained, we've had the 6-week consultation period, which was a formative consultation period. In May, the director brought forward his proposals. Cabinet approved those proposals, and we are now in a 6-week statutory consultation period where people are able to make representations on those proposals.
I know that you said earlier that you were listening. Ruth Exelby from the Wakeman School said that you were listening but not hearing what was being said. Is that fair?
No, it's not fair. We have been listening, we are listening, and we will continue to listen. Making. And as I've said, if the schools can come forward with viable, long-term, sustainable alternatives, then we are listening. But at any point, Cabinet can halt the process if they so wish.
So if they actually do come up with a viable alternative that you're talking about during the next 6 weeks, are you listening? Will it be considered?
If they can come forward with a viable, sustainable, long-term alternative that the officers feel are worth consideration, then that will come forward to Cabinet. But you have to remember that Cabinet also has access, as do members, to the information that comes in, and Cabinet members have all read the information that has come in, so they are making informed decisions.
But it's not over.
Absolutely not.
Right. And just finally with that, people talking about the Wakeman School, should it close, there'll be a need to build another secondary school in a few years, costing around £30 million. Is that right?
Well, all of the details on that are in the cabinet report. We have also discussed this at length, both at scrutiny and at the cabinet meeting and at full council today. With regard to the detail of that, I feel that those questions have been answered. If there was going to be a need for another school, it's quite clear in the report that that wouldn't be for another 10 years or so. We cannot not do anything now. No change is not an option. We have to look at the problems that we are facing now. And our vision for our Shropshire learners, as was agreed by all of the school communities, the head teachers, the governors of the diocese, was that we should be striving for first-class education for all of our learners across Shropshire.
Councillor Aggie Caesar-Homden from Shropshire Council, thank you. And now, one of the things that was brought up today was an issue concerning several people about the fairness of the process, including the Labour group leader on Shropshire Council, Alan Mosley. Afternoon, Alan.
Hello.
Slightly confusing before. Can you talk me through what happened?
In the past, opposition parties have taken 2 of the chairs of the 5 scrutiny committees of the council. Those have now been removed from the opposition and given to the Tory administration for them to operate themselves. It breaks a long tradition within the county in cooperation in scrutiny. The previous Tory administration did actually award all 5 scrutiny chairs to the opposition, and the previous Lib Lab administration also gave 5 scrutiny chairs to the opposition.
So why do it?
Well, you better ask Keith Barrow why he's done it, not ask me.
How do you feel about it?
I feel very angry and also sad for what it indicates, the symbolic aspect of this for the council. It means, incidentally, that the watchdogs, that's a common description of scrutiny, the watchdogs are being chaired by people in the same group that make the decisions that the administration are following through. That can't be good for democracy. It can't be good for openness. So far as the people of Shropshire are concerned.
But as we're talking, it's a tradition, but not a rule, isn't it?
Well, it's not a rule, and I'm not saying that there's anything unconstitutional so far as Shropshire is concerned in this. I am saying it's bad news for the county. It's also contrary to national codes of practice and good advice given by the audit authority.
The leader of the ruling Conservative group on the council, Keith Barrow, says it's just a reflection of the political makeup of the council, and he says it's important we understand what the scrutiny committee do. Here he is talking to Eric and Claire earlier today.
First of all, it's a misunderstanding of what scrutiny is. It's nothing to do with policing. Scrutiny is used in policy development, but the 7 out of the 10 members are Conservatives. So any vote that committee had, if we chose to, we could get whatever result we wanted to.
Has he got a point?
Shall I just quote from the Constitution of Shropshire Council? To discuss and make recommendations on and review policies and hold Cabinet to account for their actions.
He's saying it wouldn't make any difference. It would get pushed through anyway.
That isn't the point. The Constitution is quite contrary to what he is saying, that the role of the scrutiny, led by the scrutiny chairs, is to hold Cabinet to account for their actions. And all this is on behalf of residents. The scrutiny chairs also form a committee, and it's that committee which oversees the programme, the procedures, and the topics for discussion by the individual scrutiny committees, and that's very important too. What he's doing seems to be applying a sort of siege mentality, that we don't want this open discourse, we don't want to listen to new ideas, we don't want to involve others in this decision-making process. We're Tories, we're keeping it within the administration, and we're getting our friends to operate the scrutiny chairs on our behalf.
Councillor Alan Mosley, thank you very much.